Imagine a world where the heart of Europe beats to a different drum, where the skyline of Vienna is dominated by minarets instead of spires. This isn't a fantasy novel. It was a very real possibility in the late 17th century. The year is 1683, and one of the largest armies ever assembled stands at the gates of Vienna. This is the story of the Battle of Vienna, a monumental clash that would decide the fate of a continent. To truly grasp the importance of this battle, we need to rewind a bit. For centuries, two colossal powers had been on a collision course: the Habsburg monarchy, rulers of the Holy Roman Empire, and the mighty Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans, stretching from North Africa to the Middle East and deep into the Balkans, were at the zenith of their power. Their ambition, under Sultan Mehmed IV, was to push further into Europe. And the grand prize, the key to unlocking Central Europe, was Vienna. Vienna wasn't just any city. It was the imperial capital of the Habsburgs, a symbol of Christian Europe and a formidable fortress. But by 1683, it was in a precarious position. The Habsburg Emperor, Leopold I, was dealing with internal rebellions and was wary of a full-scale war. The Ottomans saw their chance. Their Grand Vizier, Kara Mustafa Pasha, a man of immense ambition and military prowess, persuaded the Sultan that the time was ripe to strike. He amassed a colossal army, with some estimates putting it at over 150,000 soldiers, including elite janissaries, cavalry, and expert sappers. In the early summer of 1683, this massive force began its march. The news sent shockwaves across Europe. Emperor Leopold and his court fled Vienna, leaving the city's defense in the hands of Count Ernst Rudiger von Starhemberg. I had a garrison of only about 15,000 soldiers and a citizen militia to defend against the Ottoman juggernaut. The odds were, to put it mildly, not in their favor. By mid-July, the Ottoman army arrived, and the Great Siege began. Vienna was completely encircled. Kara Mustafa was confident. He didn't order an immediate, all-out assault, which might have overwhelmed the defenders quickly, but at a great cost. Instead, he opted for a traditional siege. His engineers began digging a complex network of trenches, zigzagging their way towards the city walls. The goal was to get close enough to plant massive mines and blow breaches in the fortifications. Inside Vienna, life became a living nightmare. The constant bombardment from Ottoman cannons shook the city day and night. Food and supplies dwindled at an alarming rate. Disease, particularly dysentery, ran rampant, claiming more lives than the fighting itself. The defenders fought with desperate courage. They launched daring sorties to disrupt the Ottoman trench, digging, engaging in brutal close-quarters combat. Every inch of ground was paid for in blood. Count Starhemberg was an inspirational leader, constantly moving along the ramparts, encouraging his men, and overseeing the desperate defense. But as weeks turned into months, their situation grew more and more dire. Meanwhile, a plea for help had gone out across Christendom. Pope Innocent XI worked tirelessly to forge an alliance to save Vienna. The call was answered by a man who would become the hero of this story, John III Sobieski, the King of Poland and Grand Duke of Lithuania. Sobieski was a seasoned military commander, famous for his victories against the Ottomans. He agreed to lead a relief army, a coalition of Polish, German, and Austrian troops, known as the Holy League. Getting this army together and marching it to Vienna was a race against time. The journey was arduous, crossing rivers and mountains. Back in Vienna, the defenders were on their last legs. The Ottoman sappers had succeeded in blowing several large gaps in the city walls. The final assault was imminent. Starhemberg sent a final desperate message via a spy who slipped through enemy lines. No more time to lose. On the morning of September 12, 1683, the relief army finally arrived. They assembled on the Kahlenberg Heights, a series of hills overlooking Vienna and the vast Ottoman camp. What they saw was a city of tents, stretching as far as the eye could see, a testament to the might of their enemy. For the besieged Viennese, the sight of the Allied banners on the hills was like a miracle. The battle began at dawn. The Allied forces descended from the hills, engaging the Ottoman lines in a long, grueling fight that lasted the entire day. The terrain was difficult, and the Ottoman forces were numerous. The fighting was fierce on all fronts, as German and Austrian forces pushed on the left and center. But the decisive moment was yet to come. Kara Mustafa, overconfident and perhaps distracted by the immense wealth he hoped to plunder from Vienna, had made a critical mistake. He kept a large portion of his best troops in reserve, ready for the final assault on the city, rather than committing them fully against the relief force. He underestimated the threat from the hills. In the late afternoon, with the battle hanging in the balance, John Sobieski saw his opportunity. He gathered his elite cavalry, the legendary Polish-winged hussars. These were the heavy shock cavalry of their day, clad in armor and famous for the massive wings of feathers worn on their backs, designed to make a terrifying sound as they charged. From the heights, Sobieski personally led what is believed to be the largest cavalry charge in history. Around 18,000 horsemen, with the winged hussars at their spear tip, thundered down the slopes directly towards the Ottoman command center and the heart of their camp. The impact was cataclysmic. Tired and surprised Ottoman lines, already engaged in heavy fighting for hours, shattered. Panic spread like wildfire through the Ottoman army. The charge broke their morale completely. Kara Mustafa tried to rally his men, but it was futile. The army collapsed into a rout. The Ottoman forces fled in disarray, leaving behind their entire camp. The booty was immense: tents, weapons, treasure, and supplies. More importantly, Vienna was saved. The siege was broken. The defenders, gaunt and exhausted, streamed out of the city to greet their saviors. It was a scene of incredible emotion and relief. The aftermath of the Battle of Vienna was profound. It marked a major turning point in the centuries-long struggle between the European powers and the Ottoman Empire. For the Ottomans, it was a devastating and humiliating defeat. Kara Mustafa was executed on the Sultan's orders for his failure. The myth of Ottoman invincibility was shattered. From this point on, the Ottoman Empire would be on the defensive in Europe, slowly losing territory over the next 200 years. For Europe, it was a moment of triumph and unity. The victory boosted the prestige of the Habsburgs and cemented Poland's role as a major power, with John Sobieski hailed as the savior of Christendom. The battle stopped the Ottoman advance into Central Europe cold and secured the continent's future trajectory. There's no exaggeration to say that the Europe we know today was shaped on that September day in 1683. It reminds us how close the world came to being completely different, and how the actions of a few brave individuals at a critical moment can change everything.